I'm Roscoe and welcome to EV Marketplace on a Wednesday night. If it's 6:30 on a Wednesday, it must be EV night. And what a week it's been in the world of EVs. What a month, what a fortnight, what a week. But hey, we're going to try and break it down for you because we've seen so much happen in the last couple of weeks on the EV market, on the used EV market and the new EV market. Absolutely amazing. Leading into a holiday weekend, we just thought we'd unwind tonight and just try and take a look back in the last couple of weeks. So if you're watching us live on Facebook or YouTube tonight, if you're watching us and catch up later on, I'm Roscoe and welcome to EV Marketplace for your weekly dose of used EV deals, data and discovery. I just can't believe what's happened in the last few weeks. And hey, look, we've got Nathan Gore-Brown later on the show. We talked to him on a pre-record earlier this afternoon. He's out at the coalface. He's out there with Testev and I, helping vehicle inspectors test batteries, test cars. They've been rushed off their feet with the demand for EVs, used EVs in the last couple of weeks. We're going to break it down because we've seen from his stories and our own experience, this market has just gone absolutely crazy. We may never see anything like this for a long time again, and we're not going to go into the details of what's happening overseas, but we're just going to focus on how it's unfolded here, take you through some of the details of how we saw it unfold over the last few weeks, and then have a chat to Nathan and break it down a bit more detail. So looking forward to that. So Nathan will be with us probably in a slightly shorter show this tonight because of after all, it is April Fool's Day, and an amazing amount of press releases come out. We get all the press releases from all motor manufacturers, and incredible number came out today. So we're going to sift through a few and see what's a joke and what's real, because incredible number of press releases came out today. So maybe it's just timing. Maybe it just seems to be the way things roll. But look, this all started off in the last few weeks, and one of the things that we really started to see was headlines like this. This one from The Driven. We didn't see it coming. Shock at the petrol pump sparks huge interest in used EVs. And look, we didn't see it coming either. We started to have a look at it on EV Cruising last Sunday night. And look, I must admit, I was pretty blindsided by this as well until we started to look back. But sometimes when you're in it and they're in the bubble, you can't see out. But looking back now, we've got some data a bit later on that shows us exactly what was happening and when it was starting to happen. But we started to get these sorts of headlines, and when you're getting this from the Australian, you've got to start to wonder. First of all, they've been pretty negative. Their narrative has been pretty negative for the last couple of years, and you've had to sift through everything in the mainstream media to find a good news story. Then this one a week ago, we featured this a couple of times now, but what a great headline. Suddenly they're going from being pretty negative about the whole EV space and what's happening overseas in the US in particular. 180-degree turns by the OEMs about their EV strategies, and all of a sudden this one comes up from John Connolly, and again this one just makes me laugh. If anything else, he's suddenly gone from being fairly negative on his articles, skeptical at the very least, to now giving advice on how to buy used EV. So amazing insights. But these are just a couple of many headlines that we've seen as the mainstream media have really started to push this. So maybe first of all, the catalyst was petrol prices. Then there's no doubt the media got on board and people listen. I've seen more people in the last 10 days, 2 weeks say to me, you must be pleased you drive an EV, than I have heard for months, if not years. And yeah, it's a good thing, a good place to be. But yeah, suddenly they're coming to it with a really positive tone. They're coming to it with a bit of admiration, if anything else. And suddenly we feel, yeah, without being smirky, we're happy. And we were buried in Tocca's 10th birthday celebrations. And hey, Joseph, hey, how you doing? Good to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us. We were buried in Tocca's celebrations last week and had a whole lot of fun talking to Les. But yeah, must admit, missed some of this as it was unfolding. Fortunately, tonight I've had a chance to just have a breather, start to look back, and we've started to get some data through about what's been going on, because certainly cars and the mainstream media, used EVs became flavor of the month. Plenty of anecdotes about some of the OEMs and the new dealerships just going crazy in the last couple of weeks. Tesla up sales at 50%, or inquiries at least. And BYD as well, huge sales, clearing all their backlogs. Unbelievable. But yeah, there's some great stories out there about how busy they've been. And of course, the used EV market wasn't that far behind it. And it's not that big in the first place. So, yeah, we could have had every reason to expect that a small shift in sentiment and a few factors building up would have had a big swing in the needle. So, we've gone from petrol prices to mainstream media to probably FOMO as well. People actually being scared they're going to miss out on the rush and what's available. Stock's well down. Look, there's still cars for sale, and we'll talk about those shortly. There's no doubt there's still some deals out there. But we've also seen prices rise 5, 10, 15, 20% in many cases, and harder to get a bargain, a deal for a Model 3 under 30, 35 anymore. So, yeah, but maybe they were depressed in the first quarter of this year. Maybe they were depressed towards the end of last year. Day sale has dropped significantly. The time it takes to sell, all the factors have turned very suddenly, and I'm sure we're going to see things even out. Nathan and I are going to chat. He's got some views on that. Hal's neighbour just bought an EV. She said it was scared of fuel would run out. Look, our biggest fear is that we're not going to turn around in 6 months' time and be worried that they've made the wrong decision, that they were forced to. But FOMO is there, whether it's fear of petrol, fear of running out, of not securing a car. We started to get some data from our own website, and this is without any scales on this, is a linear graph of the AmazingEV website traffic. From about the 10th, we started to see an uptrend, and then about probably the 13th, 14th really started. So only 2 weeks ago, started to get that real tick up in traffic. Peaked out a little bit in the last couple of days, and without giving actual numbers away, this is a 100% increase in our traffic. So that's really significant for a website like ours. Absolutely amazing that we've seen this, and don't like the reason why this has happened, but wow, what a reason, what a thing to take place. And I guess we started the year and wondered what was going on, but maybe the last thing we ever expected was something like this. We started to get then some data through from AutoGrab, who I've been following and tracking since we started this show late last year, and doing updates and summaries and picking around for some good news stories. And they've just released some intra-month data, which, again, we can't wait to see the final full-month data for both new and used, because I'd say, what do you think? I'd say EV sales are going to be way up. Nathan's got a really optimistic view. Used EV sales are going to be way up. I'd say petrol and ICE cars are going to be way down. I have a funny feeling, and I've got one idea about why I think that's the case. But we've seen 100% tick up in traffic at AmazingEV, so really encouraged, and we'll touch on that because there's still cars available. Not everything's gone. It's been an amazing story. It's been an amazing ride for 2 weeks. Lots of the good stuff's gone. We'll have from Nathan about what's happening at the coalface, about how that's unfolding. Lots of orders been secured or deposits put down. But yeah, deliveries will take place. Certainly some of the trade-ins, perhaps on some of the new cars, they haven't taken place yet either. And so whether the people get a crunch on the trade or whether the OEMs are going to be as responsive as the private market has been to the pricing, we'll see as well. But so if you want to list, you're looking to trade and you want to list, and your car's not due for a couple of months, put it on there. There's still going to be plenty of buyers. I can see this ticking along with a long tail of excitement. But just that update from AutoGrab, a very interesting chart, because statisticians, they can't help themselves. Here's the EVs sold on a daily basis. AutoGrab's the guys we follow. They collect the data on the used market. They skim all the platforms for the listings and the sales, what goes in, what goes out. From there, they compile the whole used market car data. They compile market for the whole used car market. Do a nice carve out for EVs, which helps us bring you the info as well. Sensei, if you keep watching M Guy, I'm going to ban you. All right. So I've had to ban M Guy myself, and anyway, we'll get back to M Guy one day. But Sensei, if you keep watching M Guy, I'm going to ban you, whether it's Easter or not. Used EVs sold now, again, 7-day moving average. You can see that date around about 2 weeks ago, when about the 10th of March, again, interest really started to tick up. And again, assuming this is daily sales, because they typical month is 3,500 pure EVs a month. We're looking at a chart here where 2 weeks ago it was 80 odd a month, 80 odd vehicles a day, up to now 120 a day up until a couple of days ago. So they commissioned this for Drive. I think we pulled this off the Drive website. Thank you, Drive. We report a lot on AutoGrab data. We don't have a direct source. We pulled this off the Drive site, but sourced from AutoGrab. Can't wait to see the whole month data. A clear increase there. A clear increase from 2 weeks ago. And again, wasn't a bad trend upwards in the earlier in the month as well. Maybe we missed it. Maybe it was chipping away. The thing I got from most everybody in retail, I don't know what other people got from their businesses, was that 4 weeks ago, the first month, everyone just froze and no one did a thing. Everyone just sat there and went for a month, for a week. And then all of a sudden I think, okay, this is a real thing. Petrol prices, this is hurting Hal's neighbour. Again, yeah, this is, and then 2-3 weeks ago, by the 7th or 8th of March, it really started to tick away and the trend started to tick up. By the 10th, people started to really act. Whether these were people that were going to buy anyway, who knows? We'll find out in 6 months' time. Maybe we'll have a whole lot of EVs on the market that buyers regret in 6 months' time. Maybe not, but no matter what the federal government got planned for us, whether it's FBT, road user tax, whatever, clearly this is going to have a major impact on the number of cars on the road, new and then used. And so we're excited. What a fantastic place to be. The vehicles for sale tells the same story. That last one was the number sold. And you can see, again, maybe the story in reverse on a moving day, 7-day average. This all started to kick off. It was pretty smooth up until the end of Feb. And we'd reported on that data. It was sort of ho-hum, pretty smooth there, 3,500 units listed, and it wasn't moving. They were taking 50, 60 days to sell. And then suddenly we've just seen again. So that maybe kicked off earlier than we anticipated. Again, this is 7-day moving average. So yeah, maybe it's sort of a bit of hindsight as well. But yeah, this might have kicked off earlier than we felt. We certainly missed it, I think. And you can see now, significantly, they're tracking 2,387. Now, that's not the end of the world. It's still a lot of cars still for sale. That's dealer and private. Private's way less than 600 or 700 cars now. And from the barbell, if you take out the very expensive and the very cheap, there's not a lot left in the middle. You've still got a lot of Taycans, a lot of higher end units that perhaps, geez, if they're getting excited about their pricing going up a little bit, good luck to them. A few Model S's. So some of the older ones, more expensive. Some of the older ones, very cheap. Some of the more recent ones, 2, 3, 4-year-old cars, not a lot there, but still some. And we'll have a look at a couple shortly because, yeah, there's still going to be some opportunities there. So we're just going to ride and cruise into Easter this Sunday night on Easter Sunday. I'm going to do EV cruising on a Sunday night. I'm going to look at some of those cars that are new cars that might still be for sale at dealers where people had to order. Let's see if we can find some on EV cruising that are available right now that you might have to, if you were ordered to order new, you'd be waiting 2 or 3 months now as order times are blown out because they can't bring those orders forward. They can only produce so many right-hand drive models for this market. So order times have blown out, wait times have blown out. So I'm going to do some cruising around Sunday night and see if we can't find some demos or some almost new vehicles, maybe like the G6. That maybe you might have inspired me last week, Hal, for this search. See if we can find some G6s, see if we can find some EV5s, see if we can find a few others that have just sort of been sitting around for a while. It might be demos, might be newish. Might be some EX30s, mate. You never know. We'll have a look and see if we can't find something on Sunday night. But that's a fascinating place to be. And we are thrilled to be part of this because, again, I started this 3 months ago and we thought, well, let's just start to report and start to get some word out there. And who would have thought the whole market would have gone so crazy that we'd have so much to talk about. We'd have so much to actually bring to you. And it would have been such an exciting place. And Who would have thought it would have been so buoyant? And I've got to pick my adjectives here because I don't want to use anything that's a natural disaster. But who would have thought it would have been so buoyant and so exciting as everyone has got so much more positive? It's such a better place to be. So we're excited. We're going into Easter break now, have a bit of a holiday, but of course, there's some good news and some bad news, and that brings us to so the other undercurrents of EV news are still floating along, and we brought you this last week. Disappointing news about EV Direct, True EV, the importer and distributor of XPeng, and everyone's probably followed the story pretty closely now. And look, just really disappointing. But believe it or not, we got this release out today, and within, again, some of the things that are put out on April 1st just fascinate me sometimes, because XPeng, this release was put out by the PR manager for marketing manager for XPeng New Zealand, and they are going full frontal here. Effectively, immediately, XPeng ANZ will begin to establish authorised premium dealership networks, customer service infrastructure, and factory-backed logistics to service customers across Australia's major cities, Queensland. So they are hitting the ground running on April Fool's Day. Again, I assume it's not a joke. I assume it's true. But yeah, this is the day. Only last week we saw the demise of the previous, and of course, everyone knows, you can read about it. They've gone to court. I'm not getting involved. But all of a sudden, BYD through XPeng, through one of its entities, have hit the ground running. Our immediate priorities for the Australian market: dealer recruitment activity now underway. Now, True EV had signed up a whole lot of dealers. They had their own outlets, some notable iconic ones, and they'd signed up a number of dealers, but it looks like they're going to sign up dealers again, or have to re-sign those agreements. Customer support infrastructure in development for XPeng Australia. So developing some actual communication to existing customers for servicing, for maintenance, for warranty, for all parts, for everything, repairs, and the build out of key factory-backed logistics infrastructure. So having the parts, having the materials when a windscreen breaks, having it. So this is a full frontal confidence story. Again, we bring this to you for used EV owners, for the owners of G6s, to have confidence that perhaps this is going to move on in the right direction now. Hey, Stan, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. Looking forward to your trip to China as well. Lucky you. Zika must love you. That's going to be fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Well done. It's fully deserved, some of the work you've done for them in the last couple of months since you took delivery. Brilliant. But XPeng hopefully turning a corner. There'll be a lot going on behind the scenes, but this market needs confidence. Maybe some other people have laid into this on YouTube, XPeng in particular, about the uncertainty and the perils of buying any particular brand. But hey, XPeng have come out fighting, and this is a story. So this will be out there in the next couple of days as well. So hopefully XPeng, I mean, they're serious globally. They're serious in China. The Mona's just been updated. The P7, I think, outstanding. Some incredible cars. Just want to see them here and see them get on with it. So hopefully, plus the flying car as well. But that got me thinking about some of the other things that have come out on April Fool's Day. And so I've come up with a segment called Just for Today, one day a year, joke or no joke, because here's another one that came out today from Toyota, and joke or no joke, talk about opportunist. I know that announced this was coming, but yeah, nothing like Toyota for getting on the bandwagon when maybe things aren't going so well on the petrol or diesel front. Bringing forward, I think, the release of the BEV range to May, setting a price from 75,000. Unbelievable, all electric Hilux available as a dual cab, dual motor, all-wheel drive. So the SR and SR5s, perfect for fleet customers. That was the original notice that normal people wouldn't drive it. Perhaps it was just going to be for fleet people who were, conscious and more, more interested in EVs because of their social responsibility. I think that's an interesting comment from Joe. Oh, you can be the judge, joke or no joke. This is a serious release. This actually happened. It's happened today. You're going to see it out there. Me personally, I think the ICE version sales are down. I don't think it's necessary. Part of it's to do with petrol pricing, but not as gutsy a look to the Hilux, and a very slight makeover cosmetically. And that's getting very competitive, that market. There's got to be 10 at least ICE versions. There's got to be 5 EVs coming very soon, and 2 or 3 hybrids. This is going to be very competitive, and you've got to have a unit that looks pretty cool, and I don't think this is as cool as it used to be. But hey, who am I to argue with Toyota? They've done it. Congratulations. But this is true. So put this down as no joke. This one's real. And of course, the Tesla Roadster was due to be released today. That came out a couple of months ago, and it's been put off probably later this month. So again, joke or no joke, it was impossible to believe that it was going to be released on April 1st. I mean, I'm not on Twitter. I don't follow Elon, but I can't believe. I agree, Hal. KGM, EV Ute, so much better. There's going to be a few others. Isuzu have got one car already released and coming. They're more expensive, but I'm sure BYD will bring a pure electric version once they swing through this hybrid phase. I'm going to get T-shirts made. Hybrid equals headache. I think they'll get through this hybrid phase pretty quickly. This is so yeah, joke or no joke. I don't know if it was a joke in the first place that he was releasing the Tesla Roadster. If he did, this is an incredible looking car. If this was a couple of $100,000, they'd sell them. Can they devote the resources? Is he interested? Can they be bothered? Will it ever meet any expectations? Who knows? But joke or no joke, this is no joke. This is actually was announced for 1st of April. It might have been a joke. Now it's been delayed. That's no joke. Here's one that came out, again, press release. This is how it comes, copied straight off the wire service. JQJ5 EV races past 4,000 orders. Joke or no joke? Well, this is real. This one, the JQJ5, EV at 36,990 drive away has already taken 4,000 orders. Now, look, 2,000 used to be the number, unbelievably for the Zeekr 7X. That was the number, right? 2,000 units. That was the number. If you got to 2,000 in a couple of months, but they got to 2,000, they blew through that. They've just hit another 2,000 in the last 2 weeks. So there's no doubt some of the new car sellers are going to have magnificent delivery months in the next 2 or 3 months. This is going to take EV sales through February, March, April, May, June, July. Next 3 months by the time they deliver all these. Trade in some of the existing used new car buyers. Cancelled orders, sure. Buyer regret, but this one was no joke. This is a real press release. They've gone through 2,000. They've just picked up 2,000 more. Bearing in mind, the typical month of EV sales is around has been 10, 11, 8, 9, 10, 11%. That's 11,000 cars. And they've just done 2,000 orders. Sure, spread over a couple of months, but 4,000 delivered over. And we can't wait to see these sales numbers. This is not a joke, this one. And then sometimes I think this was a joke, and I'm not beating up on Tesla because I've got a Tesla. We love Teslas, but this is what we picked up last week when prices started to go up, and we first noticed them on EV Cruising last Sunday night. I was really surprised for the first time. And this quick one, this came off the Tesla website of authorized, certified pre-owned Teslas, 2 Model 3s. Anyone who knows about Tesla pricing, a 21 Stan, you can look away now. Toyota will be able to say there is no demand for EV utes when they have so small sale numbers. Exactly. Thanks for joining us. Click 6930. Geez, I can't read sometimes without my glasses, but good comment. And yeah, I think I think they might have to, because I don't think the Hilux is probably selling as well as the old one. Sales were already down for last month as orders started to deliver, and I think the ICE versions overall and petrol cars sales will be down as well. These aren't suddenly new buyers just going out. I think these people might have thinking about buying a hybrid or a petrol. So petrol sales will suffer, I think, and ute sales will suffer as being particularly notoriously gas guzzling and inefficient. But yeah, Tesla had these two, and anyone who knows anything about Tesla pricing, a 21 and 22 Model 3 for 44 and 46,000 Ks, done 33 and 48. Yeah, sure. I mean, one's got enhanced autopilot, but these were 30 to 35 grand all day long, certified pre-owned or otherwise. And believe it or not, this is no joke. These were on the Tesla website a week ago, such as the demand, and virtually nothing else. Sometimes if you've cruised around the Tesla certified pre-owned, there's been 20, 30, 100 cars around the country. Absolutely nothing. So no joke, unfortunately. But this is extraordinary, because Tesla haven't matched from what I'm hearing, Tesla haven't matched their trade-in pricing with what they're selling them for retail. So be wary, keep an eye out. There'll be some deals, there'll be some bargains. And this one, just late this afternoon on the 1st of April, GAC Aon UT delivers a drive-away price. There it is, just hot off the press, guys. Too much new car news, but they'll all be used very shortly. 1st of April, I don't know what the propensity to put out press releases on the 1st of April was, but there it is. You've seen it here first, 30,990. That's very good. That's the premium. That's the drive-away price. That undercuts the Atto 1 premium-ish without going through the specs. Check it out. This is the one you could be waiting for. 30 is the mark, I reckon. 30 drive-away is the mark, especially when the J5's 36 for a medium. And this is the small cars have got to be 30. Even though demand's good, at that small end, it's hotting up. So this one, no joke. And then we got just a bit of news for you, Stan. Hot off the press as well. I couldn't help putting these two in because, again, hot off the press, amazing amount of press releases on the 1st of April. But this one, again, joke or no joke? No joke. Stan, Zeekr have delivered their 3007X to Australian business leader Andrew Fox. So I don't know why that was significant. Could have been Stan from Kangaroo Island. It would have been more interesting. But there you go. They've done 3,000 after a slowish start. They've done a quick 1,000 in the last month or so as well. So they're well on the way. Frank Lai, Managing Director. Today I have the privilege of handing over the 3,000th Tesla Zeekr. Sorry, Stan. Joke or no joke? No joke. Hot off the press today, they've delivered 3,000. So a bit of anecdotes, a few anecdotes there. And this final one, joke or no joke? Some of you know Ant Dave from Facebook in WA, one of my mates from WA. Multiple EV owner. He just bought another one. And then came out with this news today on Facebook. Friends, I can no longer keep the secret. I've sold my EV after 13 years living, well, EVs. Bought a muscle car. I've been trying to keep my petrol head fantasy in the closet, but could not succeed. Please don't judge me. We judge you because this is a terrible April Fool's joke. This one's a joke, and that's the end of April Fool's. So don't forget, there are plenty of EVs out there. We'll help you find one. Still plenty. Some of the prices are up and down, around and about. It's been a busy couple of weeks, but if you want something and you're looking for something, let us know. We'll try and find something. Just had an update on this one from ACT MG ZS EV 2021. Just lowered the price to under 20 grand. Take a look at this. It's only done 64,000 Ks. This is perfect. This is all we need. There's plenty of deals out there. Absolutely. We've still got a few Model Ys. There's bits and pieces all over the place. So We'll take a breather over the holiday break and regroup next week. Start to look at where we can find some more deals, where more bargains. Um, I have got David Power, my good mate, coming to us next week. He's a multiple EV owner. Maybe some of these people buying new EVs or used EVs might want to know what the servicing requirements are going to be, what you're up for, tires, bits and pieces. He's got a Kia and a Kona, I think. So he's going to talk us through some of the maintenance, some of the things for those people that think that, well, they don't know what to expect. So it'll be an interesting ride for them. He's going to take us through that. In the meantime, we've got Nathan coming up. For a pre-record for half an hour. We crunched through this. I've probably worn you all out with this, but had a great chat with Nathan. He's been out there, look, absolutely amazing. So let's go and have a chat to Nathan. And, well, it's a very interesting conversation. What an amazing time it is in the used EV market. We said it was going to be a busy year. We said it was going to be an exciting year. I wasn't expecting anything like this.
Look, who was to know that this was going to be such a catalyst to change the behavior of people in their buying and their using of vehicles, and just having EVs go through the roof? Unbelievable.
You're out in the field all the time. I'm in the office. I'm talking to people, I'm talking to buyers, I'm talking to sellers, mostly private. You're out there talking to dealers with Testev, of course, your battery testing service. What have you seen? Just give us a snapshot of what you've seen in the last week, and then we'll recap and maybe take a look at how this unfolded.
Well, there's been 2 or 3 sort of real markers for us at Testev in the last sort of 3 weeks, let's call it. We've got our main dealers who have been invested in doing battery health testing and really leaning into selling used EVs, who are all out. So I spoke to a used car supermarket that is one of our leading users in Perth, and they had 45 cars on stock at the beginning of the month, and by the 22nd they had sold out of all of them. And they're just out of stock. And so we've seen that around the traps is massive months. I spoke to another major used car supermarket this morning, and they had a record month in cars in general, but also a record month in EVs by a long shot. And so now they've got nothing left. And we've seen that a lot.
I know. Who would have believed it? We were a couple of months ago, days sale, the amount of days it was taking to sell was coming off a bit of a high from late last year. Things were quietish, cautious, and then it's amazing that, after the barrage of media that we've copped in the last 2 or 3 years, we're starting to see things like this from the driven. We didn't see this coming. Well, that's for sure. Shock at the petrol price, sparks surge in interest in EVs. And then amazingly from the Australian, they've gone from being very skeptical about the future of EVs, new and used, to now giving us advice on how to buy.
And how to buy a used EV and what to do and where to go. And so we've definitely seen, a rapid period of time, and it'll be interesting to have a look at some of that data on where were the triggers. And I'm still not really sure what's triggered people. I think there's a combination of obviously fuel and petrol prices, but also the concern and worry about shortages. And I think those are the 2 major catalysts of how can I control my transport? Well, maybe EV will help me with that.
Yeah. And we'll dig in much, much deeper because, some of the reasons are prima facie are interesting, but then we've had a few more factors loading in, like FOMO and just the sheer size of the market. My feeling is that people have actually just jumped on board and raced towards buying an EV, new and used, and the market's so small, the supply's so small, it's had a massive effect on the actual number of stock left, and indeed prices, as we'll come to see as well.
Absolutely, with prices. I had a little search around today at some of the cars, and we've seen dealers particularly dynamically pricing their cars. So a car that would have been $28,000 or $30,000, a month ago, roughly at the beginning of last month, is now 35, right? So they've put the price up about the sort of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 mark, and I think to be honest, that kind of makes sense. A 20% rise on a $30,000 car is about where the market could bear based on the demand that's out there. So that also then brings in the potential for, if you've got an EV, a spare EV lying around, maybe it's time to sell it.
And indeed, I mean, so in many cases, the prices were very depressed, and they were going from there were some good deals out there for these cars. In some way, we've had a small correction, but yeah, whether that comes to fruition again and again later in our time together, we'll hopefully get a chance to look at what's next as well, and to see what's going to happen after this, and what happens when we get back to some sort of normality. But yeah, I when we've had these sorts of, again, headlines, it just amazes me. And, I don't like using the word exploding, anything to do with EVs. So maybe people that write for some of these newspapers don't share the same sort of thought process that I do in their headlines. But certainly, let's go through the timeline and go back and just, because it has been a very, very interesting 3 or 4 weeks. And yeah, I think some of the main, or the number one headlines, I didn't see it coming. What about you?
Well, I kind of feel like we've been training for this for about 10 years, those people in the EV space. So I knew it was coming one day, but I just didn't know what the catalyst was being. And in this, turmoil that we've seen, I wasn't really sure, was it $2.20, $2.50, $2.80, $3? Like, at what point was the catalyst? And what we've seen is a combination of things. And I think, what are we saying? Something like the 10th or thereabouts, the 12th of March, really started to ramp up all over the place.
And the 10th, I mean, we had a couple of conversations over the last month or so, what it was like out in the field, comparing the marketplace to dealer world. And I think you said to me on the 10th, things are starting to pick up, because I really felt the first week of March, things were very quiet in retail world. Things happened late in February. This thing's been going for a bit over a month now. First week, I think everyone shut up shops in retail world. Lots of retailers I spoke to across different sectors, discretionary and non-discretionary spending, they've just stopped, right? Prices started to edge a bit. And then I think you said to me, maybe about on the 10th, and this is a chart of the AmazingEV website search traffic. No exact metrics there, but you can see it from about the 10th, it started to edge up, and it's pretty much double. This is a linear chart, and the search traffic's pretty much doubled for used cars over that period, peaking out late last week. And so that was about the time people went from, hell, we're doing nothing, to maybe there's the catalyst here. We're going to start looking at EVs. Maybe these EVs start to make a bit of sense, right?
That's right. And you can see that your search traffic and the general consensus of conversation out in the marketplace very much aligned. It was really quiet for that first week, but I got a bit of a rumbling from a couple of our dealer partners where, just at the back end of that first week, there was starting to get some inquiry, almost like that blip that you've got around that 8th of March. And then it really started to ramp in that middle of the month space. Then by the time you got to the 20s of the month, there was, all the cars were deposited on, and there was nothing to buy almost. And then by the end of the month, we've seen a continued reduction in vehicles available, and just that continued demand, and that's where those prices have started to go up.
And we normally give a monthly update on the used EV sales data carved out of the AutoGrab report, which AutoGrab supplying the data for the Australian Automobile Dealers Association. But this month they've been asked probably by a few people what exactly is going on. So fortunately, we've found some data, and again, thanks to a Driven article who may have done the interview with Saxon Ogden from AutoGrab, we've picked up this data here, and this is EV sold, and this is a daily 7-day moving average, but a daily number of what's been sold. And again, that key date is around about the 10th there, where it was picking up quite nicely. There was 50 or so sold, then up to sort of 70. So this sort of was trending up anyway, but then suddenly there, after about the 10th, it dipped down again, and then the trend really took off big time after that. And so this is the actual number sold. And look, just bear in mind, and one of the next factors, apart from the fact that the petrol price, there was a point where, I think we agree, everybody started to go, hang on, this is really hurting me, and I don't see when this is going to stop. So the bottom line, but yeah, jumping out to buy an EV, new or used, is a pretty big step. Maybe you're on.
I reckon.
Were you on the pathway to doing that anyway? Was this a push over the line?
How ready were you, and what was the catalyst that sent you over the edge? You could almost put the fuel price directly over the top of that line.
Yeah.
It would almost match if you scaled them right. So that demand, the fuel price has definitely been correlating to EV interest, and in this case, EVs actually sold, used EVs actually sold. Yeah.
No, it is amazing. And then we just had that really strong period where things just took off for 2 weeks. And suddenly I think we had demand falling away. Then we had prices going up, which is something we haven't seen for quite some time. And I think we haven't got any price data exactly, but here's the used EVs for sale. Here's the demand falling away significantly. And again, there's not nothing for sale, but a lot of the cars in that sweet spot of sort of 35 to 45,000 have gone or been accounted for. Yeah.
That's right. And so when that stock is so thin on the ground, you start to, and I think we've probably seen, it's a bit like when we've had, we had COVID and we had everybody went and bought bread, and you get to the shop late, and there was the really posh bread and the really rubbish bread that you didn't want to buy. And so at the moment, the real core of the EV used market at the moment has been hollowed out. Model 3s, Polestars, BYD stuff, all in that sort of, let's call it 20 something, 25 to 45, 50K kind of marketplace is just completely taken up. There's a few cheap ones. There's a few old i3s I've seen and stuff like that. They seem to be sticky. They're not being picked up so quickly, but you have got a significant reduction. What have we got here? From sort of 3,500 to 2,500. 1,000 cars that have come out of the market, or a third of the market that's been swallowed up in a short period of time. And I actually think these data here is probably including a lot more demos and other vehicles that don't quite that wouldn't necessarily be what we'd answer. And, in other measures I've seen that you were down to sort of 500 cars that normal people would buy in the marketplace in total. It's really a small amount of cars. So we'll see what the reports come out with. But, when you've got that much demand and therefore that little supply after 3 or 4 weeks of people, jumping on it, it starts to become a seller's market.
Exactly. And that's what we've seen. And so the stocks dropped, a little notation from AutoGrab up there. Stock dropped from 3,500. So not big. In the whole scheme of the market, there's probably 200,000 used cars for sale. And so we're talking about a pretty small market. So the sensitivity to any small shifts in demand, even caused by this, have had a huge flow-on effect in terms of what's for sale and the pricing as well. So although there's a lot of stories out there, we are still talking about fairly small numbers, and we're still talking about a 35, 40,000 car market, because there's no more, there's not that many more cars to sell. But we'll come to that and what happens next. But just putting that in perspective, there has been a lot of media about this, and that is a pretty significant drop though. 3,535 down to 2,387, 33%. Chief Commercial Officer Saxon Ogden from AutoGrab said this trend is translating directly to pricing. So again, that's the next factor. So we've had an increase in pricing, which you alluded to before, that's the first time, and I didn't put any pricing data up, but can't wait to see that at the end of the month as well. We've seen cars. I saw cars on the Tesla site as well. They had virtually nothing, but a couple of Model 3s, a 2021, a 2022 for $45,000.
Maybe they're
unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Hoping to make the most. And I did a trade-in on my Model Y just during the middle of this, as it is coming up to the end of its lease, and we will switch out of it. And I asked them how much it was worth, and they gave a number that was a solid 10 grand less than the market would snap it up at, and probably there's a little bit more to be had there. So, the Tesla used car market within the dealership group, having been a previous employee in that space, is a weird one. So it's probably not the best litmus test. But when you have a look at some of the used car supermarkets, your Easy Auto 123s and your Karmas and so on, those guys do have some really clever algorithms in the background, and they're tracking the market, and they're squeezing the prices up or squeezing the prices down on a daily basis. And I've definitely seen those prices rise, particularly from about maybe the 20th onwards,
Yeah.
where there's been, there's a bit of inertia there. So if you were buying something like the 15th of the month this last month, you were in the sweet spot. You were clever enough to be ahead of the curve, but the curve hadn't started to bend the prices upwards quite yet.
And this is really interesting. Again, this is a 7-day moving average. So sort of looking back over the previous 7 days, which I don't know why they haven't given us the outright number, but that's a statistician's dream. Let's just look at the trend again. If we take our 10th of March date, it does appear to have started well before that, right? And I missed it. Comes back to the original, one of the headlines of the story. I didn't see it till probably last Sunday night when I started to do the cruising for an EV show on Sunday night, and I'd spent the previous week with Tocker celebrating their 10th birthday, and I hadn't really studied how closely. We didn't have any data. We didn't have data like this. We just sort of started to have the anecdotes, and then started to track some of the numbers on car sales, which I guess is a proxy for 90% of the market. Here's the current state of the.
I think there's a couple of other things I'd just add there. I think there might be cars that were pulled out of the market. So if you were looking to sell your EV and all of a sudden you thought there was going to be, let's just hang on to that car because it might be our only way means of getting around. That might be one. And then there was, there's sort of maybe that is the first, early part of the month, the first 7 days, and then after that you started to see clearly vehicles being snapped up and being brought off sale. So there's a whole bunch of dynamics there, but I think in total it just shows that there was demand to have an EV versus a fairly static base of supply, and then you go from there.
I agree with you. I tried to consider that and quantify that as well, just how many people at that point in time, when they started to see petrol prices rising, before the media got a hold of this and before the number of actually started to drop through increased sales, how many people do you think actually did decide to change their mind? And if suddenly they were, for whatever reason, they might have been going overseas, they might have delayed that. They might have been looking at another option. They may have delayed that. They may have decided an EV was a good idea after all. So maybe a fair portion of that decrease in stock and used EVs for sale is accounted for not by sales, but by people withdrawing them from the market now.
And look, if it might be 10%, it might be 20% of the overall factor, but it's not 0%. That's for sure.
No. Yeah, I think it's probably much higher. Anecdotally, it'll be difficult to quantify that because I think AutoGrab used the methodology where if it's listed on a listing, it's counted, and then when it's no longer listing, it's counted as a sale. So
I understand they can get hold of the data that says why it got delisted. So did it get delisted because it got withdrawn, or it got delisted because it got sold, and then a little bit of data around how it got sold. So we might get some of those insights in the AIR and in the new month or so on. But anyway, it's certainly part of the mix.
So we've got increase in a bit of increase in fuel pricing. We've got people changing their mind about selling. We've got suddenly a big FOMO effect where people who had started to think about it started to hear about a shortage or an increase in prices and started to go out and chase them. And then suddenly we ended up in a situation where a lot of the good stock in the middle market, 25, that was 25 is 25 to 35, which is now 35 to 45K. Have you got any other examples? I've seen a couple apart from Tesla where it's hard to find a Model 3 under 35,000 now. Polestars are back around the 45 where they were 35, 40 all of a sudden.
That's right. And I noticed what we started to see was the vehicles that were left were some of those vehicles that, again, probably on the fringe. So vehicles that have been repaired write-offs maybe. And so they look cheap, but then when you look into it, they're a repaired write-off. Not that it's an end of the world, but it's just not a choice for everybody. And then, I've certainly seen a couple of vehicles where people haven't actually worked out what they've got. And so there's folks who are privately selling a vehicle but don't have a true understanding about what they're trying to sell, that there's still there's like an $18,000 MG that for me every day of the week was $25,000
Yeah.
in this current market. And I decided, and I was like, New South Wales is probably a bit far away for me to buy that car and sell it. But there was some of those thoughts were running around in my head. Slap a EV test on the top of it and then sell it out to the market, and away you go.
Do you think some dealers or some sellers are a little bit optimistic now in terms of pricing? And that maybe alludes to getting ahead of ourselves about what's going to happen next. But do you think some of them have jacked the prices up too much or not?
Definitely. And so I've had quite a few friends and family and mates come out to me and say, okay, so EVs, tell me about it, because, been in the game for a while. And they've been flicking me ads that they've seen, and there's vehicles in there that are, a solid 5 to 10K more than they should be, with a really poorly presented ad. You know perfectly how important it is to present a good car in a good ad and with good narrative, and you're like, oh, would I buy a car that's 5 or 10 over the odds? And I don't really understand what the guy's saying in the ad, and then they're all blurry photos in a vertical frame, and you're like, oh. So that typical not really being sold very well. But yes, absolutely. And I think there'll be some chances, but I actually think a lot of those chances, looking for, putting the car on at 10 grand over odds, probably going to be in the top end. So you're going to be looking at things like performance Model 3s and Ys. You've probably got, things like BMW, i4s and, stuff like that at the top end, where folks who have bought a car that they're probably a little bit upside down on are now going to try and capitalize on it. But I think that the majority of the middle market is going to be a bit richer than it has been, but it's still going to be pretty honest.
Yeah, I'm looking back on car sales now. I'm going to just flick up this. I don't know if you saw the show I did on Sunday night. It was hilarious because I was just flabbergasted. The Roadster that I'd shown, and this one's been up for about 2 years now. I better put Tesla in there as well. That's this one was up. It's been up for a couple of years now, and I specifically looked at this about some Tesla models, when I was doing a special on Tesla a couple of weeks ago for the Tocker Club, and this was 189,000 a week ago.
And I think that same car, or at least its cousin, its brother, was bobbing around the market back when I was working at Tesla in 2017 for about 100, maybe 90 grand. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, this is an exciting prospect for somebody who's got a hole in their garage. I'm an all-in EV guy, but I wouldn't buy this if I was going to spend a couple of $100 grand on something special. Probably go back to a previous one.
I know I know. It just shows that all spectrums of this car market, this used EV car market, are not immune to anyone having a bit of a go in these.
I think one of the ones I like to do, one of the little litmus tests I had is there were Nissan Leafs, early models in the marketplace for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in sort of early Feb, let's say. Today, there's nothing under 10.
Yeah.
Actually got a mate who's got a car and is maybe looking to go for something that's a little bit more range and a bit better charging. So, make somebody's great shopping trolley. And he's going to sell it for more than double he bought it, I believe, in that market now. And just seems to be the way it's gone. So that bottom end, that real, lower bottom end of the market has been completely sliced off. And which means the cost of entry is higher.
Yeah, and it's interesting those bottom end ones like the Leaves, again, they were 7 or 8, they got down to 7 or 8 grand. They were getting very difficult to sell. They were 12, 13 for a while, and then got 7 to 8 they were moving, but suddenly they're back well over 10 without any problem whatsoever. Again, just now that you've been out there in the market, for anyone who's looking right now and trying to buy an EV, what are you seeing in terms of the usual checks and balances from your experience?
Yeah, look, it's been really interesting. So I think what I've seen in my world is that there was a whole bunch of cars that were secured. And then after the security, here's your $500 deposit kind of idea. And then after that, I want the vehicle to be inspected. And we've seen a lot of our inspection customers then go on out to do inspections in EVs and do Avalue battery health tests. And, we found a couple that have not been great, and we've
Yeah.
found some vehicles that have then that have been fantastic. And so I think the big thing that I've noticed there is that rush, that surge to buy a car. I'll take any car, a pink one, let me have that one, right? Whatever. But then it's anybody who hasn't been necessarily prudent to go and
Yeah.
get the confidence around that battery if the vehicle hasn't been sold with a test or with an inspection. Or it's, if they then want to get one, I think what we've found is, a solid number of vehicles and a few vehicles that you wouldn't necessarily have a concern for, but have come back with battery cell imbalances, rapid degradation. And so, it's a great time to get on an EV if you can find a good one, but make sure you are finding a good one and you're not going to get caught with something that's going to leave you, with a problem to deal with.
Yeah, that's good advice, because the same rules apply. Just slow down a bit, take it easy, go through the same procedures you would, even if you think you might miss out. Make sure you get the mechanical inspection done, like get the battery check done, all the things you usually would, regardless of how much of a rush or demand there appears to be. I think, just slow down a bit, because I think all that's prudent, particularly with EVs, and hope that the dealers don't rush in and try and secure, although they might not be finding that they're getting able to buy stock at a reasonable price either anymore. So that will.
I think that's interesting. I think there's now this opportunity for those people who have got a spare EV lying around to actually enter the market. And there might be this new surge of stock in the early part of this month of people who go, maybe I can get, maybe I've been hanging onto that car because I've got negative equity, or I've got a negative position where I'm just not happy to sell it for, a Tesla Model 3 at 28 grand, which was a steal, 6 weeks ago. Today is probably worth 35 to 38 all day long. So having that car you might then put into the market. What I think we're also going to see, so there's been a bit of new news as well. So every stock BYD in Queensland that I believe has been sold, there were thousands, and they're gonna take the monthly new car sales numbers in a real direction. And I think within that, you've got lots of people who have had an EV. They're going to be trading an EV on that EV. Now, whether they hang on to it for a second car, or are they going to then put that into the market? So, and I know we'll be one of those families soon, because we've just ordered a new Model Y after testing a couple of other vehicles in the marketplace. The wife went for a Model Y, and we will then sell our older Model Y. So there'll be this refresh and this changeover where people were thinking about what are we doing, even if they are EV owners. So I think there's going to be a surge of stock that will come into market. And I've been talking to some of my partners about, what's going on in their world, and that has been including them appraising vehicles, testing them before they buy them, so that they can make sure they're getting a good car as well.
That's a really good point. Yeah, because a lot of the cars are having to be sold, or will have to be sold now from this point onwards, to accommodate the new cars that have been ordered. So, which leads us to the last point, which are just having a look forward at the next 2 or 3 months, because some people have suggested it just might be a blip, give or take the amount of time it takes to settle down overseas, or whether we can predict it's a protracted rise in petrol prices or not. But with the amount of stock that we've got available, do you think we've got a systemic change in the trends for new and used, or we'll split them up?
I think it will be a systemic change. I don't see us going back to $1.50 petrol that we had, 3 months ago, whatever, Christmas time. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it'll start with a 2 pretty much for here on in. I think that there will be continued supply challenges, and even if it takes 60 days to get those supply challenges under order, there's still going to be this supply challenges. What we've already seen, and we'll see in this month's sales data, is that people will have gravitated away from diesel towards petrol. People have gravitated away from petrol towards hybrid, and people have gravitated also further on to full EV, PHEV and full EV. And so there will be this continued. So, my guess, I'll put a number out there now. I think we'll see greater than 25% market share for plug-in vehicles in Australia this year. I think this month we will crack 25% is my guess. And so will we have 25% market share in the future month? Well, I know several brands have sold 3 and 4 boats out. I know that, our Model Y that we ordered last weekend is not going to be it's not going to be in our hands until something like May, June. So those sales are guaranteed for the coming couple of months.
Yeah.
So I think we'll still have, again, a 20-something market share for plug-in vehicles throughout the next couple of months. And so there's a bit of a tipping point, fait accompli there, where I think that the new market will then drive the used market, and that will just continue to be more buoyant in replacement for the likes of diesel and maybe heavier petrol vehicles, as people sort of come down the consumption, ladder, if you like.
That's great to know. Yeah, that's great. Look, yeah, I wasn't sure. I really, it's very hard to tell, but it's great that if people need somewhere to sell, and they're looking at, and they've already ordered something new, Amazing EV, you can list with us, and we'll certainly try and help you secure a great price, because I think there's certainly going to be lots more EV buyers on the used market who can't find anything now. And as you said, there's going to be a lot of people who have ordered new are going to have to sell, and I don't think maybe the trade-in prices will catch up just as quickly. They never do, right? they never
do. So I think, selling privately now is probably even more advantageous than it has ever been.
Exactly.
But you've got new dealerships. There's even dealer groups out there who I've walked in to have conversations with, who say, we do not do EVs.
Yeah.
That this weekend had social media posts saying, we'll buy your EV. So there's some hungry dealers out there. So don't rule that out. But also, get up on Amazing EV and put an ad up there. And hey, even if you're a month or two away from receiving that new vehicle, find the right timing and have a go. That's what I'm going to do.
That's right. Yeah, we still don't know how long it's going to take with adjusted prices. Day's sale, how long it takes to sell might slow down a little bit. There might not be an advertise now, sell tomorrow. But look, fascinating times, and thanks for the insight. Yeah, I think it's given the whole industry a massive boost. I think it's, for unfortunate circumstances, it's because I think the scary part is what the ICE sales will be for March, the new ICE sales. And I think they'll be way down, right? That's my expectation. Can't wait to see the sales numbers, new and used, in a week or so, because it's going to be fascinating reading. But thanks for joining us, Nathan. It's been great as usual. Thanks for sharing your insights, and I look forward to catching you next time, right?
Pleasure, Roscoe. Always a pleasure. Cheers.
That was Nathan Gore-Brown from Testev. If you're looking at buying an EV, a used EV, make sure you get a battery test. You can find them at testev.co. I'm Roscoe. Thanks for joining us again this week. Next week, I've got Dave Power, my good mate who owns a couple of EVs, has done for 3 years now. We're just going to go back and check on a few things. If you're buying an EV, what you might need to know about servicing and running, maintenance, that sort of thing that you may not have checked out completely. Different brands. I can compare Tesla with his Kias and Hyundais, and we'll just see what is required on a day-to-day basis, or month-to-month, year-to-year basis for anyone buying a used EV. Might help you in the future. But if you've ordered one, congratulations. If you're looking at one, go for it, because it's going to be a great choice and you will not regret it. I'm Roscoe, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
I'm testing with me and my friend, the chicken. Hi, I've come on down to test a Tesla Model Y that's done a 336,000 kilometres. We're going to come and check it out. So here we are with our vehicle. We've got about 360 k's on the clock. Our Avaloo device and the cable is now set up down the back here. Start by putting it into gear. Plug in the device, but it'll look for the vehicle that we've got and it will start the test automatically. Let's see what we end up with. All right, so after just 3 minutes, we've got a solid green light on our device. Put the vehicle into park and we can disconnect the device, and then we will have ourselves a test in just seconds. So our little device has got us a 86.6% battery health on a car with 336,000 Ks. That's going to give whoever takes on this vehicle the opportunity to get great range out of a really nice car, which after a bit of a cleanup, will be an absolutely fantastic family wagon for a good price. 336,000 Ks and 86.6%. What more would you want?
Then I'm gone with the night.